I often look up at the night sky and I marvel at the mystery and the size of outer space. I think of the many celestial bodies traveling through space in wonder. Well, today, Amy Braat is going to dispel some of the mystery of outer space. In Amy's 7th speech, Research Your Topic, she's going to help us understand the difference between meteorites, asteroids, and comets. Timer, if we could have our lights at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and 7 minutes, that would be wonderful. And now, please join me in welcoming Amy Braat.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Chicken Little may have been confused about why the sky was falling and what caused it. There's a lot of misconceptions about meteorites, comets, and asteroids. Meteorites actually have 3 different parts to them. There's meteoroids, which are small asteroids out in space. And then once they hit the Earth's atmosphere and start to fall, they're called meteors. When they hit the Earth's crust, they're called meteorites. The Earth rotates through 2 meteor showers every year, which is dust and particles in space that cause the beautiful light shows that people see. Now, Chicken Little might have been concerned about being hit by a meteor, but there's no written record of anyone actually dying from being hit by one. They've been injured, but nobody's actually died. In 1908, there was a huge meteor that came down, and it exploded 3 to 6 miles above the Earth. They say that to reenact that would take 10 to 20 megatons of TNT. It would be like 1,000 nuclear bombs going off at the same time. If there had been a city underneath this, it would have been leveled. But the only proof that we have that this meteor actually came down is the uranium in the soil, which is not found on Earth very much, mainly just from meteors. Coming more current, in 1992, October 9th, there was another one. Michelle Knapp was sitting in her living room watching TV. And all of a sudden she heard this noise. She goes outside. She sees that her Malibu has been flattened by a football-shaped meteorite at this point. You can actually see it. They have it on display at the museum. Throughout history, meteorites have spared lots of legends. In ancient Greece, Saturn, who's also called Kronos, had eaten his first 4 boys, trying to save Zeus, his mother, then feed Saturn a rock. After his dethronement, he gourds the rock and he throws it down to Earth, and it lands exactly in the center, where now Apollo's temple is built, and it is still there today if you want to see it. Going more modern time, for Islam, in Mecca, they've got the Kaaba. There's a story about one of the rocks that built it. The angel Gabriel came down from heaven and gave their patriarch Abraham a stone, which then he built his house from. The Prophet Muhammad then took that rock and he built, it's one of the stones in the Kaaba. So throughout history, meteors have shaped many of the stories and legends. But really, what causes a meteor? Where does it come from? Asteroids. And so what is an asteroid? An asteroid is a huge pile of rubble. It's got its own gravity, so it stays together like a ball. Scientists think that when the universe was formed, this was a planet that didn't make it. They orbit in a very elliptical pattern. They stay pretty consistent distance from the sun. And they are named by who finds them. So I really want to befriend someone so I can get an asteroid named after me. Maybe Braat asteroids, A&B, or ABA. Be cool. But they have really large ones. They're about 300 million kilometers from the Earth, which is quite a ways. And there's about at least a few million of them orbiting around. One of the biggest ones is 933 kilometers long in diameter. That's about the length of England. Most of them are about 10 kilometers. But how did they get to Earth? Well, as they're orbiting around in what is called the asteroid belt, they get close to Jupiter, which has a huge gravitational pull since it's a very large planet. So they start to wobble as they go around the sun. And eventually, after a millennium or so, they get knocked out of their orbit from this wobbling, which then causes them to hit other asteroids and collision. Eventually they go flying off into space. And they hit things like Mars, the Moon, or Earth. So that's where they come from. Where comets are different because they have gravity, and they also, when they get close to a sun or a star, they cause their own atmosphere. They have volatile gases in them that will, and dust, that will light up like a light bulb when it gets close to the sun. And that's the tail you see behind it. The ancients had many stories and legends about comets because it was one of the few things that wasn't consistent. They have a very erratic and hard to track orbit. And they're also named by who finds them. For instance, Pan-STARR is named that because the telescope Pan-STARR found it. Now, one of the many legends of the comets. It was used for a long time as an omen. They thought that it brought disaster and destruction and had a lot of negative names. For instance, the harbinger of doom. It was called the daughter of Satan. It was called big balls of fire that brought destruction and despair. And Halley's Comet has been it's been blamed for a lot of things. For instance, earthquakes, illness, and two-headed animals. It was actually excommunicated by the Pope because it was an instrument of Satan. So those are the differences between meteorites, asteroids, and comets.